Before we dive into today's story, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Stick with us till the very end. And if this story moves you, share your thoughts in the comments and send it to a friend who needs to hear it. Now, let's begin. Maya Benson's hands trembled so hard that the keys slipped twice before she could even find the ignition. Her breath fogged the inside of the car as tears blurred her vision. With a frustrated groan, she dropped the keys into her lap and pressed her forehead to the steering wheel. The restaurant parking lot was mostly empty, scattered cars glowing under pale yellow lamps. Above, a thin moon hung like an unblinking witness to the evening's humiliation. Inside, Adrian was probably still at the mahogany bar, sipping whiskey, relaxed and charming, as if nothing had happened. His earlier words replayed in her mind: grand plans, our future, a business they were building together. But now those words clinked like fake coins, shiny but worthless. She wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand, smearing what was left of the careful makeup she had applied earlier. She had chosen the emerald dress that brought out her eyes, bought an expensive perfume she could barely justify, and spent an hour curling her chestnut hair into soft waves. At 33, Maya had earned a reputation as a brilliant financial consultant, the woman who could turn risk into security with a few sharp calculations. She loved that version of herself, confident, meticulous, respected. But right now, she didn't feel like the competent woman from the office. She felt like the invisible teenage girl who once helped her crush pick gifts for other girls. Always the helpful friend, never the chosen one. Dinner had begun, pleasantly enough. She spoke animatedly about projected returns, while Adrian nodded, seemingly interested. Then his phone buzzed. His face lit up, not politely, but in a way Maya had never seen before, a private happiness she had never inspired. When he excused himself to take a work call, she watched him from the corner of her eye. His shoulders loosened, his whole demeanor softened, as though the person on the other end was the only one he wanted to be real with. Passing him on her way to the restroom, she caught a whisper. "Everything is perfect, love. I got more. Yes, we're right on track." Her stomach clenched. "Love?" "Oui." In the bathroom, Maya stared at her reflection. Her lipstick was still perfect, mocking her. She had just transferred another $45,000 into the account for Adrian's venture. Her savings from years of late nights, skipped vacations, postponed dreams. When she returned to the table, Adrian was impatient, constantly checking his watch. The charm was gone, replaced by a man eager to leave. After dessert, he claimed another urgent call, kissed her cheek with formality, and promised to talk tomorrow. Now, sitting alone in the car, Maya felt the weight of truth crash over her. There was no future, no shared venture. The us he spoke of had never included her. Her sob broke the silence of the night, half a laugh, half despair. How had she, the woman who could spot an error in a spreadsheet from a mile away, failed to see this coming? Then came the knock. 3 firm taps on the window. Maya startled, heart leaping. Through the glass, a tall man leaned down, his face partially lit by the parking lot lamps. "Don't move," he said gently. "Just listen." His voice was calm, not threatening, but carried urgency. "I was sitting at the next table. I overheard him, Adrian, right? He's scamming you. He called someone love and said he got more money. I work in financial fraud investigations. Here, take my card. Call me when you're ready. You're not the first, and if we don't act, you won't be the last." Maya sat frozen, the stranger's words echoing louder than the blood pounding in her ears. Her fingers automatically accepted the card he slid through the gap in the window. Michael Carter, financial fraud investigator. The letters looked solid and grounded, the exact opposite of Adrian's flashy, gold-foiled business cards with hollow motivational quotes. Maya looked up, but Michael was already walking back to a sleek black sedan, his dark coat moving like a shadow behind him. For a long moment she sat in the car, card in hand, staring at the steering wheel. The voice inside her told her to run home, crawl into bed, and pretend she hadn't heard a thing. But another voice, quieter but steadier, told her that this was the moment she either reclaimed control or let herself be broken. She finally turned the key and drove away, the city lights blurring into streaks through her tears. Her apartment felt foreign that night. The yellow walls that usually brought comfort now seemed to mock her, and the neatly arranged shelves of finance books reminded her of the very skills she had failed to use for herself. On the coffee table lay The Birth of Love, the rare book Adrian had given her with the line, "I thought of you the moment I saw it." She picked it up and laughed bitterly. How many women had heard the same line, she wondered, as she flipped through its pristine pages. Her phone lit up with a message. "Darling, everything okay? Meeting ran late. Talk tomorrow. Sweet dreams." The words felt like poison. Something inside her snapped. With shaking hands, Maya grabbed Michael's card and dialed the number. The line clicked. "Michael Carter," a calm voice answered. "It's me," Maya said, her voice breaking. "I think I need your help." There was silence, then a steady reply. "I'll meet you tomorrow morning. Don't blame yourself. Just get some rest." The next morning, Maya met Michael in a quiet cafe near the courthouse. He was taller than she remembered, his presence steady but not overpowering. He listened without interrupting as she told him everything, her voice faltering as she recounted the bank transfers, the promises, the moment she heard Adrian's voice calling someone else love. When she finished, Michael leaned forward, his brown eyes serious but kind. "Maya, emotional predators are experts at this," he said gently. "They look for women who seem strong but are carrying everything on their own. You were targeted because you are intelligent and independent. He saw you as a challenge." Maya flinched but nodded, grateful for the truth, however painful. "We can file for fraud," he continued, sliding a notepad toward her. "But we have to move fast before he drains the last of your funds. Are you ready to fight back?" Maya looked at him, wiped a tear from her cheek, and said, "Yes, I'm ready." The next weeks were a whirlwind. Maya and Michael spent hours together gathering statements, freezing accounts, and building a case strong enough to bring Adrian, whose real name turned out to be Lucas Everett, to court. Each meeting was a mix of exhaustion and catharsis. "How could I miss the signs?" she asked one evening as they sat in Michael's office, surrounded by folders. Michael gave a small smile. "Because you wanted to believe the best in someone. That isn't stupidity. That's hope." His words stayed with her that night as she stood in front of her bathroom mirror, looking at her reflection as if seeing herself clearly for the first time in months. She wasn't just a victim. She was someone who had chosen to fight back. When the court date finally arrived, Maya walked into the courtroom with her head high, her emerald dress replaced by a simple navy suit that made her feel strong and grounded. Michael walked beside her, giving a small encouraging nod as they took their seats. Across the aisle, Lucas sat with a bored expression, as if the entire proceeding was an inconvenience. When the evidence was presented, the bank transfers, the recorded messages, the list of other women he had targeted, his smirk faded. Maya felt her chest loosen for the first time in months. When the judge declared him guilty and ordered restitution for all victims, Maya exhaled a long breath, as though a weight had finally lifted from her shoulders. Michael leaned over and whispered, "You did it." Tears stung her eyes, but this time they were tears of release, not despair. After the trial, Maya and Michael celebrated with coffee at the same cafe where they had first met. "You never once made me feel foolish," Maya said softly, stirring her cup. "Most people would have." Michael shrugged lightly. "You don't need someone to tell you you're smart. You needed someone to remind you you're human." Maya looked at him, really looked at him this time, noticing the quiet strength in the way he carried himself, the way he never filled the silence unless it mattered. I'm starting to think I needed someone to remind me I'm worth more than the lies I believed, she admitted. Michael's lips curved into a faint smile. Then I'd say tonight was worth it. Weeks turned into months, and slowly Maya began to live again. She spent weekends reading at parks, rediscovered her love of sketching, and even took a short trip she had postponed for years. Michael remained a quiet constant, sometimes checking in with updates about other cases, sometimes simply showing up with coffee and letting her talk. It was one rainy evening, as they walked under a shared umbrella after dinner, that Michael stopped, turned to her, and said, "Maya, I'm not here because of the case anymore. I'm here because I care." The rain drummed softly on the umbrella as Maya's heart raced. "I think I care too," she whispered, surprising herself. He reached for her hand, and for the first time she didn't pull away. Their relationship grew slowly, without the rush and performance of her time with Lucas. There were no dramatic promises, no exaggerated charm, just steady presence. One evening, sitting on her balcony with candles flickering around them, Maya said, "Do you know what I realized? I thought love had to look grand and perfect like a movie, but maybe real love just shows up." Michael nodded, his hand warm over hers. "Real love doesn't perform," he said. "It stays." Maya leaned her head against his shoulder and smiled into the night. She finally felt safe, not because someone said the right words, but because someone kept showing up when it mattered. A year later, Maya stood before her mirror adjusting a simple necklace Michael had given her for her birthday, a small emerald that reminded her of the night everything had changed. She was no longer the woman who mistook flattery for love or who invested in someone who saw her as a means to an end. She was simply Maya, strong, imperfect, still healing, but deeply loved. From the living room, Michael called softly, "We'll be late if you keep admiring yourself in there." She laughed, grabbed her purse, and walked toward the door where he waited with that patient smile she had come to cherish. As they stepped out into the warm evening air, Maya thought back to that night in the empty parking lot, the knock on her car window, the quiet voice saying, "Don't move. Just listen." Sometimes destiny doesn't come with fireworks. It just comes with a stranger's card and a choice to begin again. The following months turned into a season of rediscovery for Maya. She reconnected with Lydia, her best friend, over weekend brunches and late-night calls, finally telling her everything that had happened. Lydia's reaction was immediate and fierce. "If I ever see that man, I'll throw my mimosa at him," she said, slamming her glass on the table. Maya laughed for the first time in weeks. "It's not just him," she admitted. "It's me too. I didn't realize how lonely I was until he exploited it." Lydia's expression softened. "Loneliness isn't a weakness, Maya. It's just a sign you need someone who sees you, really sees you. And for what it's worth, Michael seems to see you better than anyone ever has." Maya stirred her coffee, thinking about the quiet investigator who had stood by her side without once demanding anything in return. One Saturday afternoon, Michael invited Maya to a charity gala for victims of financial scams, an event he helped organize every year. She hesitated at first, worried about seeing other women who might mirror her own pain, but Michael gently said, "Sometimes the best way to heal is to see you're not alone." The ballroom was softly lit, with tables arranged in a warm, welcoming circle. Maya was surprised at how many people came up to her after Michael introduced her as one of the brave women who stood up in court. "You gave me courage," one woman said, gripping her hand. "I filed my case because I read about yours." Maya's throat tightened, and she glanced at Michael, who gave her a small nod of pride. That night, as they left the gala, Maya said quietly, "Maybe I needed this reminder that something good can come from all that pain." By spring, Maya had settled into a new rhythm, her work thriving again, her laughter returning naturally. One evening, she invited Michael to her apartment for dinner, her first attempt at cooking for someone in years. As she nervously plated the pasta, Michael chuckled. "Relax, Maya. I've eaten worse." She rolled her eyes. You haven't even tasted it yet." They ate at her small dining table, candles flickering between them. "You know," Maya said after a sip of wine, "I used to think love had to look like grand gestures and surprise trips to Paris. But maybe love is just someone eating overcooked pasta with you and making it feel like the best meal in the world." Michael grinned. "For the record, this pasta is perfect. But even if it wasn't, I'd still be here." One rainy Sunday afternoon, they were sitting on the couch, reading in comfortable silence, when Michael finally set his book aside. "Maya," he said, his voice unusually serious. She looked up, heart-skipping. "I know we've been taking things slow, and I'm glad we have. But I need to say this, I love you." Maya froze, the words sinking in like soft rain soaking dry earth. "You don't have to say it back right now," Michael added quickly, his brown eyes calm but vulnerable. Maya smiled softly, setting her book down. "I think I've loved you longer than I realized," she whispered. "I just needed to believe I could love someone again without losing myself." Michael reached for her hand, and in that moment, Maya felt as if the world outside had gone perfectly still. Their love deepened through the summer. They traveled together, nothing extravagant, just small weekend trips to nearby towns, farmers markets, and hiking trails. It wasn't about escaping the world, but about living in it together. One afternoon, as they sat under an oak tree with a picnic basket between them, Maya said thoughtfully, "You know, I used to believe pain was the price of love, that the more it hurt, the more real it was. But this feels different. It feels steady." Michael nodded, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "That's because this is what real love feels like, quiet, patient, and strong enough to last." Maya leaned in and kissed him, a kiss not born of desperation, but of gratitude. Autumn arrived with crisp air and golden leaves. On Maya's birthday, Michael surprised her by taking her to a small cabin near the lake. That evening, as they sat by the fire, he reached into his pocket and placed a small velvet box on the table. "Before you panic," he said with a teasing smile, "it's not what you think." Inside was a delicate bracelet with a tiny emerald charm that matched her necklace. "Consider it a promise," he said. "Not of forever just yet, but of showing up every single day. Because you deserve someone who stays." Maya's eyes filled with tears as she clasped the bracelet around her wrist. "And you deserve someone who sees you, Michael." "And I do," she said softly. As the months rolled into winter, Maya realized how much she had changed. She no longer checked her phone obsessively for messages that never came. She no longer measured her worth by someone else's approval. She had built something better within herself and with Michael. One night, sitting by her window with snow falling outside, she journaled for the first time in years. "I am no longer the girl who waited for someone to choose her. I am the woman who chose herself first, and then chose someone who chose her back." When she finished, she closed the journal and looked at the man asleep on her couch, one arm over his eyes. Her chest swelled with quiet joy. On New Year's Eve, Maya and Michael stood on her apartment balcony as fireworks lit up the sky. The city glowed with celebration. But for Maya, the real firework was the stillness in her chest, the calm certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Michael wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Another year," he said softly. Maya smiled, leaning into him. "Another year," she echoed. And as the clock struck midnight, Maya thought back to the night it all began, the cold parking lot, the stranger's card, the choice to answer the call. Sometimes destiny doesn't roar into your life. Sometimes it simply knocks on your window, asks you to listen, and stays just long enough to help you build a new life worth living. Like and subscribe to my channel for more contents like this, and let us know where you are watching from under the comment section.